Xiao. Xiao Yan's body suddenly trembled when he heard the exclamations of the Hundiao duo. The blood flowing within his body suddenly fluctuated in a strange manner. This ripple was extremely familiar. The empty space in front of Xiao Yan's group formed some ripples in front of everyone's eyes as a figure in pale green clothes quietly appeared. The appearance of this figure did not attract any unnatural phenomenon, but it appeared as though everyone present could not endure a punch or a kick from this person. Hun Clan, what a hateful bloodline. The figure appeared and raised his head, revealing a face that did not appear very handsome, but it caused one to feel that there was something unique. His black hair reached his shoulders, and a pair of ink-like eyes were as deep as black holes with an unusual wisdom. It was filled with a charm that caused one to feel intoxicated. Xiao. The Huajiao duo's eyes were staring at the unusually familiar face as shock and horror flashed across their eyes. Although they possessed an extremely great strength, the man in front of them had once stood at the peak of the continent. Only a few across the entire continent could fight with him. Elder Hundiao. Hunya was a little frightened as he watched this stranger suddenly appear. Although he was not acquainted with this person, he still vaguely sensed the feeling of death. Xiao Xian may be very strong, but he is suppressed by the heavenly tomb. It is impossible for him to leave the tomb anytime he likes. He can only leave it once every 10 years, and the 10 years have passed. He is not able to reveal himself. Hundiao inhaled a deep breath of air. He suppressed the fear in his heart as he softly reasoned. In other words, the Xiao Xian in front is not his actual self? The other gray-clothed old man's eyes flickered as he asked. It is likely only just a show, Hundiao coldly replied. His boldness had become more apparent. Xiao Xian might be powerful, but it was impossible for him to scare off the two of them with just a shadow. You do indeed possess good eyesight, the green-clothed man smiled. His black eyes looked at the Hun duo in front as he said, however, the two of you have overestimated yourselves. 2 1-star Do Sheng do not even possess the qualifications to speak to me. That green-clothed man slowly lifted his hand after speaking. He gently clenched it while facing the Hun duo. Shatter. After this word was spat from the green-clothed man, Xiao Yan's group was immediately startled to see the space within a 10,000-foot radius collapse. A dark, invisible hand suddenly formed, after which it randomly slammed into the Hun duo. Bang, bang, bang. The 10,000-foot large dark black hand gently slammed down as the land appeared to experience an earthquake. It shook as numerous crack lines spread across the ground and extended into the distance. This fiend, why has he come out again? Such a large commotion was naturally sensed by some powerful energy bodies. However, their expressions changed when they sensed that familiar aura. They hesitated for a moment before hiding even the tiniest drop of their auras. Their bodies gradually became illusory before hiding under the land. How is this possible? The eyes of the Hun duo were somewhat stunned as they watched space collapse. Even they were unable to endure such a frightening palm. Run! Faced with the collapsed space and the enormous black hand that was swiftly approaching, the Hun duo sniffed the scent of death that caused their bodies to tremble. Their faces turned pale, and they could not be bothered with anything else. One of them grabbed Hunya, while the other grabbed Hunli before turning to flee. Bang! However, their speed did not allow them to smoothly escape. Space itself seemed to be shattered by the large black hand. Hence, the two of them had just traveled 1,000 feet when the attack suddenly arrived. Bang! The large hand did not truly strike the two of them. Instead, a frightening wind penetrated space when it was 1,000 feet away from the fleeing figures before landing on the bodies of the Hun elders. Their bodies violently shook when faced with this frightening wind. They did not even manage to scream when they emitted a bang and exploded into nothing. The remaining force in the hands of the two elders violently tossed away Hunya and Hunli before they were blasted into nothingness. They flew far into the distance. Xiao Xian glanced at Hunya and Hunli, who had been tossed away, but he did not stop them. 8-star Do Zuns were not even comparable to ants in his eyes. Rumble. The enormous hand shattered Hun elders before it smashed into the ground, causing the land to tremble. Dust scattered from all over before settling a moment later. A 10,000-foot large and seemingly bottomless gully appeared in front of Xiao Yan's group in a spectacular manner. Hiss! Xiao Yan's group inhaled a deep breath of cool air as they looked at this bottomless pit. Such a frightening destructive strength was a little too terrifying. This fiend is still as vicious with his attacks. Saint Xuedao looked at the two Do Shangs who had been turned into nothing by just a palm of this green-clothed man. He involuntarily swallowed a mouthful of saliva, but he also rejoiced a little. Fortunately, he had intervened today. The green-clothed man in the sky randomly finished off the Hun elders. Only then did he turn around. His eyes leaped over Gu Qingyang and the rest before finally landing on Xiao Yan. The blood within Xiao Yan's body appeared to flow at a faster rate when the eyes of the green-clothed man landed on him. He forcefully endured the excitement in his heart as he lifted his head. Two pairs of dark black eyes met. Their intertwining eyes lasted for some time. Finally, a smile surfaced on the green-clothed man's face. The smile was not deep, but it gave Xiao Yan a familiar feeling of being connected by blood. Someone from the Xiao clan has finally come. I have not waited for so many years in vain. The green-clothed man stepped through empty space and slowly appeared in front of Xiao Yan. He spoke in a soft voice. That voice contained some pride and relief. This descendant Xiao Yan greets ancestor. Xiao Yan was finally unable to endure the excitement in his heart when he heard the words of the green-clothed man. He knelt on empty air and gave his ancestor the most respectful bow of the Xiao clan. Ha ha, Xiao Yan, a good name? The green-clothed man slightly smiled. He gently helped Xiao Yan to his feet and patted his head. He said, I sensed your presence the moment you entered the heavenly tomb. Your performance along the way has been quite good. Xiao Yan rubbed his head. He was aware of just what kind of great person his ancestor was back then. Being able to obtain such a good evaluation from him was likely a very difficult task. This junior Gu Qingyang greets elder Xiao Xian. Gu Qingyang, Sun Er, and the rest gave Xiao Xian a respectful bow and deferentially greeted him. They were clearly aware in their hearts that even the clan head of the Gu clan would still have to treat this person in front of them with respect. Members of the Gu clan, huh? Xiao Xian smiled. He glanced at Gu Qingyang's group and said, Your Gu clan did not fully do as per the agreement that you made with me back then. Gu Qingyang and the rest felt some cold perspiration form on their foreheads when they heard his chastising words. They hurriedly replied, Elder Xiao Xian, merely a small portion of the clan didn't. The clan head has always adhered to the agreement even until now. Xiao Xian was noncommittal. His eyes suddenly turned to Sun Er by the side as he commented, Your bloodline is very similar to Gu Yuan. Gu Yuan is my father, Sun Er respectfully replied. Her pretty eyes were somewhat uncertain as they looked at Xiao Xian. He could be considered Xiao Yan's elder and possessed absolute authority. She naturally did not wish to give the other party a poor impression of her on their first meeting. She did not wish to do this even though the current Xiao Xian was no longer a truly living person. You are actually that fellow's daughter. No wonder you possess the divine bloodline. It is really the case of the next generation being more outstanding than the previous. Xiao Xian nodded. His eyes suddenly swept over Xiao Yan and Sun Er before saying to no one in particular, However, my Xiao clan still gained the advantage. Sun Er's pretty face flushed red with embarrassment after hearing the meaning in Xiao Xian words. You should return first. In the future, you will continue to exist in the heavenly tomb. Xiao Xian glanced at Saint Xuedao and indifferently spoke. Thank you, Elder Xiao Xian. Saint Xuedao rejoiced upon hearing this. He hurriedly cupped his hands in a respectful manner. There were too many energy bodies in this heavenly tomb, and quite a number of them were stronger than him. However, with Xiao Xian's words, those powerful existences would not dare to target him. After uttering those words, Saint Xuedao wisely decided not to stay any longer. He cupped his hands to Xiao Yan's group and then turned into a ray of light that hurried into the distance. Let's head to the tomb. Due to the heavenly tomb, I cannot leave often. The thing that you are seeing now is just a shadow that I have projected, Xiao Xian explained when he saw Saint Dao Shui leave. The hearts of Gu Qingyang's group were shocked when they heard these words. A mere shadow was able to kill two one-star Do Sheng energy bodies with the raise of a hand. If this was his actual body, would it not possess a frightening strength that could annihilate the world? I think that you have many things that you are uncertain about, right? Follow me. I have waited for too long for this day. Xiao Xian's eyes shifted to Xiao Yan. He smiled slightly and spoke in a soft voice. An excitement rose within Xiao Yan's heart when he heard these words. He had been waiting for this day for a long time. Xiao Yan's group followed Xiao Xian to the deepest region of the heavenly tomb before they gradually came to a stop. Their surroundings were as black as ink because there was almost no light. One appeared to be standing in the empty realm as a kind of lost, panicked feeling rose within one's heart. This is the deepest part of the heavenly tomb. Xiao Xian smiled as he spoke. He pointed to an ancient stone tablet in front. This tablet stood in this dark black region in a lonely manner. It was quiet and lonely, appearing as though it had existed for a long time. This is my tomb. Xiao Yan's eyes followed the direction Xiao Xian had indicated and saw an ancient stone tablet. Even though a countless number of years had passed, the stone tablet still emitted an aura that could not be described. This kind of aura was not intense, but it caused one's soul to feel a flutter that could not be stopped. The four of you should train outside the stone tablet. This place is where the energy in the heavenly tomb is the most dense. Other energy bodies do not dare to enter this area. Therefore, you need not worry about your safety. Xiao Xian looked at Gu Qingyang's group as he spoke. Gu Qingyang's group looked at each other after hearing this. All they could do was smile bitterly and nod their heads. The only thing they could do when dealing with this person, who was once a top expert, was to completely obey him. Xiao Yan and that girl from the Gu clan, follow me. After randomly settling matters with Gu Qingyang's group, Xiao Xian turned to Xiao Yan and Sun Er. After which, he placed both of his hands behind him and slowly walked into the stone tablet. His body swiftly became pale as he disappeared upon contact with the stone tablet. Xiao Yan gently exhaled when he saw this. He extended his hand to Sun Er and smiled as he said, "Let's go." The anxiousness in Sun Er's heart completely disappeared as she looked at Xiao Yan's smile. She obediently extended her soft hand and placed it in Xiao Yan's palm, allowing him to pull her along as they slowly walked to the stone tablet. Xiao Yan, take good care of Sun Er. Gu Qingyang cupped his hands and spoke in a deep voice as he watched Xiao Yan and Sun Er walk toward the stone tablet. He knew that Xiao Yan would likely spend most of his time inside the tomb after entering it. All of you should also take care, Xiao Yan smiled and nodded. He extended his hand and gently touched the stone tablet. A bloodline connection was emitted from the stone tablet as a circular light scattered from the stone talisman, wrapping around Xiao Yan and Sun Er. Finally, the light scattered, and their figures completely disappeared. Gu Qingyang and the rest looked at each other after watching the two of them disappear. All they could do was bitterly laugh before softly sighing. Forget it. Given Elder Xiao Xian's ability, he will not do anything to Sun Er. Let's just quietly wait here for them to come out. Gu Qingyang shook his head. After which, he randomly found a stone platform and sat down. He gradually entered his training state. Gujan and the other two could only nod their heads when they saw him sit down. They each found a spot and began to train. The light that filled one's eyes slowly disappeared. Xiao Yin and Sun Er slowly opened their eyes. Xiao Yin looked at the ancient house that had appeared in front of him, and he involuntarily became a little absent-minded. It was unexpected that this simple and ordinary tablet actually hid such a mysterious place. It was indeed worthy of being an elite Doshang's resting place. Xiao Xian stood with his hands behind him in the middle of the large hall in front. There was a clear pond in front of him. Numerous green lotuses were suspended on it, emitting a faint, relaxing fragrance. Can you tell me about the situation of the Xiao clan? Xiao Xian sighed when he heard the soft sound of footsteps behind him. Xiao Yin hesitated for a moment when he heard this request. Finally, he said with honesty, the Xiao clan no longer exists. There is only the declined Xiao family left. Xiao Yin structured his thoughts after uttering these words. After which, he spoke in detail about the various unexpected changes of the Xiao clan during these years. Xiao Xian slowly nodded after the last word sounded. His face did not reveal much emotion. The decline of the Xiao clan is something that I had already expected. At the very least, there are still descendants remaining. It has not reached the point of despair. Xiao Xian's voice was gentle, appearing to possess a demonic strength. He seemed to recall some things while Xiao Yin, who had become a little emotional, once again became calm. Do you have anything that you wish to ask? Xiao Xian looked at Xiao Yin and asked a question with a smile. Is Ancestor really still living now? Xiao Yin hesitated for a moment before asking. If Xiao Xian were able to live in another form, the Xiao clan would prosper. With such a peak expert, it was likely that even the Hun clan would have to be cautious. Xiao Xian looked at Xiao Yin. A moment later, he slowly shook his head and said, "What you are seeing now is merely a remnant part of my soul. When I died back then, I had instructed some people to deliver me to the heavenly tomb. Only then could I take on this current form and await your arrival. However, this is only limited to the heavenly tomb. I will immediately disappear once I leave here." Disappointment flashed across Xiao Yan's eyes when he heard this information. He bitterly laughed. The strength of the current Xiao clan is too weak. Having lost the bloodline strength, we are unable to fight with the other ancient clans. Someone like me is considered unusual to them. When the Xiao clan was still around back then, I had already sensed that the Dodi bloodline was about to be exhausted. You should understand that if the bloodline strength was becoming exhausted back then, the Xiao clan would have been annihilated by those enemies with ill intent. Xiao Xian lifted his head. His eyes seemed to be recalling a distant memory. The only way to replenish the Dodi bloodline is for another Dodi to appear, but this is too difficult. The me back then was a little too arrogant and did not think that I would be blocked in front of the Dodi class. After discussing with the many elders within the clan, we decided to stake everything. We used a secret technique and transfer most of the bloodline strength within the clan to my body. I understand that it was the final hope of all the clan members. Xiao Xian inhaled a deep breath of air. Some pain finally surfaced on his face. He had disappointed all the members of the Xiao clan, but I still ended up failing. When I was attempting to advance to the Dodi class, the Hun clan launched a sneak attack. I ended up seriously injured and I died. Adds by Pub Future. Xiao Yin was quiet when he heard Xiao Xian's self-reprimanding sigh. A moment later, he softly said, "That was the last method. If the bloodline strength was allowed to be exhausted, the Xiao clan would have difficulty escaping being destroyed. No one in the Xiao clan would ever blame you for this. However, if the strength of the bloodline has been exhausted, why is it that the clan tattoo has appeared on me?" Xiao Yin suddenly rubbed his brows and doubtfully asked. The clan tattoo of the Xiao clan is not bestowed by another, it is created by oneself through training. Xiao Xin smiled and continued. I can sense the Skyfire 3 mysterious change on you because I was the one who created it. It is unexpected that you have accidentally obtained it. I remember that I gave it to the Burning Flame Valley back then. The word fate is indeed unpredictable. Xiao Yin revealed a stunned face when he heard these words. A moment later, he suddenly recalled the name that he had seen when he was inheriting the Skyfire 3 mysterious change at the Burning Flame Valley. Xiao Xin? That Xiao Xin there is the ancestor of the Xiao clan. The matters of this world is really unbelievable. Of course, the Skyfire 3 mysterious that you practice is still lacking the final step. It is precisely because it is lacking this final step that you have been unable to create a clan tattoo, Xiao Xin softly explained. An excitement immediately surged within Xiao Yan's heart when he heard this. His eyes looked at Xiao Xin with anticipation. Haha, relax. I have waited alone for so many years in order to hand everything to you. This final step of the Skyfire 3 mysterious change will naturally be handed to you. Xiao Xin shook his head and smiled when he saw Xiao Yan's excitement. However, even if you form the clan tattoo, it is difficult to truly unleash it to its peak without the support of the bloodline strength. Xiao Xin voiced his thoughts. Since it is called the clan tattoo, there must naturally be a bloodline strength as a source. Xiao Xin nodded as he observed Xiao Yan's eyes dim. He smiled and stepped into the pond before walking to the middle. With a wave of his hand, one could see the water of the pond slowly rotate. Following the swirling of the pond water, numerous blood lights were slowly emitted from Xiao Xin's body. Finally, they followed his legs and entered the pond water. Following the numerous unusual blood light rays entering the pond, the clear water began to gradually turn blood red. At a glance, it appeared just like a pool of blood. At the same time, Xiao Xin's black hair began to gradually turn white. His face had also become old. Xiao Yan's expression changed when he saw this change. He was just about to speak when Xiao Xin, who was still in the pond, slowly shook his head. He smiled and said, "Back then, I used all of my strength to preserve some of the Dodi bloodline, and I used many techniques to seal it. All that I was hoping for was to once again create a clan member who possessed the bloodline strength. The current me is only a remnant soul. All I can do is drift in this heavenly tomb. The matter of revitalizing the Xiao clan can no longer be completed by me, however. The heavens do not wish for my Xiao clan to end. I believe that you will do better than me." Xiao Yin felt an ache in his heart when he looked at the aging Xiao Xin, whose eyes had become much gentler. He could sense that this ancestor of the Xiao clan, who had possessed a shocking talent, had carried a big burden. This bloodline strength also possesses some of the energy that I had sealed away when I was alive. My descendant, hopefully, you will be able to complete the promise that I have made to the members of the Xiao clan back then. The clear pond water became blood red following the pouring in of the bloodlight. In the end, a dense wave of the smell of blood drifted out. An extremely frightening energy also slowly formed. Xiao Yin, who was standing beside the pond water, sensed the terrifying strength within. Not only did he not feel any discomfort, but the blood within his body had begun to rapidly rotate at this moment. He appeared to sense an extremely great desire from it. This is the Xiao clan's bloodline strength, huh? Xiao Yin clenched his hands. This kind of strength should have left the Xiao clan. It is unexpected that he was still able to sense it at this moment. Xiao Yin, enter the blood pool and inherit the last bloodline strength of the Xiao clan. Xiao Xin in the pool, who had turned into a white-haired old man, smiled. His current voice had become extremely hoarse and elderly. However, this elderly feeling vaguely contained a faint hope. The Xiao clan was not completely hopeless. This member of the younger generation of the Xiao clan might not be able to compare to him back then in terms of achievements, but for some unknown reason, He sensed that the challenges he had failed to pass might be completed by his descendant from the younger generation. Xiao Yin inhaled a deep breath of air as he studied Xiao Xin's elderly appearance. He was aware that now was not the time to feel emotional. Xiao Xin had used such a technique in order to wait for him, turning himself into something that was neither human nor ghost. All he wanted was to pass on the final bloodline of the Xiao clan. The thing that Xiao Yin needed to do now was to not reject it. Instead, he needed to accept it and truly do his best because he was the only hope for this declined clan. Xiao Yin Ji, be careful. Xiao Yin merely inclined his head when he heard Sun Er's soft voice, after which he ceased hesitating. He stepped forward and entered the blood pool. He then slowly walked to the middle of the pool of blood. The moment Xiao Yin entered the blood pool, the blood in his body began to fluctuate. Numerous flowing strands of blood energy violently pierced his body like many needles. They finally roared through his pores in an extremely barbaric manner and wildly charged through his body. Hiss! The sudden intense pain caused Xiao Yan's expression to immediately turn pale. A mouthful of cold air was involuntarily inhaled. It might be a little painful in the beginning. The bloodline strength must first wash away the ordinary blood within your body. Only then can it pour the blood with the bloodline strength into you. This is the first step of the inheritance, changing blood. Xiao Xin by the side spoke when he saw Xiao Yan's face swiftly turn pale. "Aye." Xiao Yan nodded. He clenched his teeth and forcefully endured the tearing pain. He could sense that the blood within his body was rapidly disappearing under this intense pain. Soon an extreme frailness swiftly spread, causing his eyelids to involuntarily lower a little. You cannot become unconscious. Otherwise, the blood will not be properly washed, and it will not be possible to unleash the bloodline strength to its limit. All the bloodline strength within the members of the Xiao clan has already completely disappeared. Therefore, it is impossible to use gentle techniques to activate it like other clans. We can only use the most overbearing method. Xiao Xin sternly cried out when he saw Xiao Yan's eyelids gradually lower. Xiao Yan shuddered when he heard Xiao Xin's stern cry. He hurriedly focused his mind and bitterly endured the intense pain and his extremely weakened state. Sun Er, who was beside the blood pool, involuntarily clenched her hands when she saw Xiao Yan's bitterness. Her heart felt a little ache. Ugh, we can only use extraordinary methods because of extraordinary circumstances. Xiao Xin sighed, after which he sat beside the blood pool. The time required to change blood was quite long. In other words, the pain that Xiao Yan had to endure would last for a long time. Time swiftly flowed by in the quiet large hall and 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. Xiao Yan had been soaking in this blood pool for these 10 days. Following the clearing of his blood, the current Xiao Yan had turned into an extremely skinny and frail skeleton. His expression was so pale that it was frightening. If a weak breath wasn't still existing his nostrils, no one would have treated him like he was alive. Sun Er observed the changes in Xiao Yan during these 10 days from beside the blood pool. Her heart felt as though it was being cut by a blade. Anyone's heart would feel terrible after watching one's beloved turn into a skeleton one step at a time with one's own eyes. Xiao Xin was calmer while watching the changes of Xiao Yan, but his heart was still a little worried. Changing blood possessed some inherent risk since the person changing blood was at one's weakest. If one's mental strength was not strong, one would descend into a dangerous state. Should that final breath be swallowed, that person would truly turn from being on one's last breath into a dead person. Boom! While the two of them waited with complicated emotions, the calm blood pool suddenly emitted a slight sound after 20 days. Many bloody bubbles surfaced in the blood pool and burst apart. At the same time, a blood-colored swirl formed. Xiao Yan, who was so skinny that he was hardly any different than a skeleton, was at the middle of this swirl. The blood changing has succeeded. Once the blood that possesses the bloodline strength pours into Xiao Yan's body, Xiao Yan will gain the final bloodline strength of the Xiao clan. Xiao Xin appeared to have been relieved of a big burden. He sighed in relief after witnessing the changes. Both of his hands formed a seal, and a blood-colored light shot into the blood pool. Fizz fizz. The blood pool appeared to start boiling when this blood light shot into it. Blood bubbles continued to rise. At the same time, traces of a mysterious bloody liquid were separated out. Finally, they climbed Xiao Yan's body, followed his pores, and continued to pour in. Following the pouring in of the blood that was filled with a mysterious energy, Xiao Yan's extremely pale skin gradually displayed a sleek redness. His dry skin slowly began to recover. As the situation gradually turned for the better, Sun Er sighed in relief. She softly inquired, "Elder Xiao Xian, is there still some energy that you sealed back then in the blood pool? If this energy is completely absorbed by Xiao Yan Ji, his strength would suddenly soar, right?" "Aye," Xiao Xian nodded. He glanced at Sun Er and smiled as he said, "I know what you are thinking. This increase in strength that relies on external forces might pose a great hindrance when advancing to the Doshang class if they are not properly controlled. However, Xiao Yan should be aware of this already. Therefore, he will choose the most rational method, believe in him." Sun Er quietly nodded. Her heart was indeed a little worried. The energy that Xiao Xian had left behind would be extremely great. The energy would be enough to allow Xiao Yan to soar to the peak of the Dozun class in an instant, but if this happened, the chances of Xiao Yan advancing to the Doshang class in the future would become negligible. It was not worth it in the long term. However, this worry was not overwhelming. Given her understanding of Xiao Yan, he was usually rational. He was quite cautious about this kind of external energy. It was possible to tell that he was prepared for this matter from the way he would rarely allow himself to consume medicinal pills that could increase his strength despite being an alchemist. Next, let's just wait for the change of blood to complete. It is likely that this will take a long time. Xiao Xian softly spoke. He slowly shut his eyes. Sun Er by the side also nodded. She once again stared at the blood pool. After failing to see any unusual changes, she finally relaxed and entered her training state. The ancient hall was completely silent. Only the bubbling sound of the blood continued to reverberate. One mouth quickly passed amid this silence. Fizz. Blood bubbles continued to churn within the pool. Xiao Yan's skin had recovered its past appearance and looked like it was filled with life. One could still see a countless number of blood strands surging out from around him as they poured into his body. Following the pouring in of this energy, Xiao Yan's aura gradually soared. Bang! This silence continued for an unknown period. At a certain moment, the blood bubbles churning within the pool suddenly stilled as an explosion sounded, causing a blood fog to scatter in all directions. A cluster of purple-golden light strangely spread from Xiao Yan's body and blocked the blood traces. This sudden, unexpected change caused Sun Er and Xiao Xian beside the blood pool to open their eyes. They were stunned when they saw what was happening. "What is this?" Sun Er was startled as she stared at the purple-golden light. She could vaguely sense an extremely noble and mysterious aura radiating from Xiao Yan. She had never sensed this kind of aura before. Xiao Xian also frowned as he studied this purple-golden light. His eyes revealed an expression of contemplation. It was a long while later before he slapped his hands together. A voice that was filled with surprise was emitted from his mouth. "Dragon Phoenix bloodline strength? Why did this legendary thing appear in Xiao Clan's body?"